Yeah, so today I wanted to just debrief joy a little bit, and then we'll talk about equanimity and how all of these factors, how all of these Brahmaviharas fit together. Um, joy, I feel like joy can be paradoxically a bit of a hard sell in in difficult times. It there can be this niggling voice that wonders whether it's appropriate to be happy when others are unhappy, and the at the end of the day, the one of the important functions of joy is to keep the heart um, fresh, yeah, lively, nourished, and the yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about this when we move on to equanimity. But um, if you think about it, the most effective way of helping other people is to be operating from a place of wellness yourself. The in a number of places in the suttas, the Buddha talks about living at ease among the afflicted. That because this practice is so hard to this road is hard to walk to completion. If you're really dedicated to freedom, there's going to be unfreedom around you, and you can't let that distract you. Oren J. Sofer says, joy viewed through a Dharma lens can't be selfish. Mudita is altruistic. We rejoice in allegiance with the health, wholeness, and richness we see around us. It is undeniably appropriate. Although we've suffered tragic losses and will continue to do so, our planet still supports a bounteous, riotous profusion of life. Further, joy is not simply a passive state of enjoyment. Joy provides vital resilience and inspiration for our loving action. After all, if we can't rejoice in the well-being of others and the world, what can sustain us in working toward that end? And I think that was something that I also wanted to draw out a little bit, just the way that work in itself can be joyful. On one of the boards that I'm on, we had an in-person meeting some time ago, and one of our members lives with a chronic illness that she manages with a lot of mindfulness. And at the beginning of the meeting, she let us know that she was having an okay day, but she was about a 4 out of 10, and so she'd really need to be careful about how she was engaging in the meeting. And she found the meeting so engaging that it was a really great board meeting. Those things can happen. That by the end of the meeting, she reported her energy was at around a 7 out of 10. And she'd been using energy discussing important topics for the organization, but the using of the energy was not draining but replenishing. So I think that is the joy of work is going to be a refuge for a lot of us in the times that are here. The to find work that nourishes us in the doing of it, rather than sitting at home fretting about all of the things that should be done. To pick something and do it, and let our hearts be uplifted by the doing, by the connections that we form in the doing as well. Dan Savage writes, during the darkest days of the AIDS crisis, we buried our friends in the morning, protested in the afternoon, and danced all night. The dance kept us in the fight because it was the dance we were fighting for. It didn't look like we were going to win then, and we did. It doesn't feel like we're going to win now, but we could. Keep fighting, keep dancing. And there was this delightful piece in Humans of New York about somebody who'd made a decision to be joyful. He says, I work in sanitation. Our shift starts at 5 a.m. These guys are coming in from all over. They're tired, they're dragging, but I'm whistling. I've got my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I'm saying, good morning, bro. What's up? We're about to make some money. Good, honest day's work. Every time you get to the end of the block, you look back. You see the whole block is nice and clean. The sidewalk's nice and clean. So I'm smiling. So maybe just taking a moment to look at your, your life through that lens of appreciation. What, just taking a moment to remember what are some things that that are going well. Each of us right now has internet access. That's amazing. We probably have a warm place to sleep tonight. I bet most of us have clean water coming out of the tap. We have enough health and leisure to engage in something like this. So many blessings when we stop to look for them. The blessing of finding the Dharma, finding a way of training the mind in presence and resilience, even when things are hard. The blessing of good company. So appreciation for what's going well can help to break the obsessive focus on what's difficult in our lives. And joy functions also, like I said, to balance the the way that compassion can lead to heaviness. It's really natural when when the mind is turned toward what's challenging in life for compassion at times to spill over into grief. And it's really normal for that to happen. Grief isn't what we're cultivating, but it's part of the art of cultivating these beautiful states of mind is to get skilled at working with keeping them from becoming their unhelpful variants. So keeping compassion in balance so that it doesn't lapse into grief, keeping joy in balance so that it doesn't lapse into giddiness. And the quality that helps to maintain this balance, aside from mindfulness, which is always useful, is equanimity. There was a little quote I saw from a writer who calls themselves story people. We've all known such times when the sky and ground were turned around, no moon to guide us through the dark wood. I see how bravely you take one step after the other, and I hold my lantern high, here at the edge of the forest. I'm your witness. I'm your friend. The journey is yours alone, but you are not alone. So I love that quote because of the way it captures an important aspect of equanimity, this sense of kindness and connection, and also the respectful acknowledgement that another person's journey is theirs, it's not yours to control. And the feeling of equanimity is this spaciousness of mind that can encompass anything. It can turn toward things just as they are without getting caught, without resisting. The word equanimity can bring up a lot of associations for folks. And so I don't know, I feel like when talking about equanimity, it's useful to spend more time talking about what it's not than about what it is. Because um, folks can assume that it's kind of a tuned out quality of mind, like just a not caring or apathy or never being touched by anything. You know, yeah, the uh, and so those what are traditionally called the near enemy of equanimity would be something like apathy or delusion, just like not being in touch with things as they are. Um, I don't know if you, I don't have this picture handy to share on the screen, but there was a very iconic image some years ago now. I think it became popular. This little cartoon dog sitting in a room that's on fire, and he's drinking a cup of coffee and saying, "This is fine." So that would be a near enemy of equanimity. This deluded, uh, yeah, this ability to not freak out just because their denial is so strong. True equanimity is a sense of allowing things to be just the way they are. You know, things are the way they are, and the heart is going to respond the way it does, and there is a space for all of that to be true. There a simile um, that kind of elicits the feeling of equanimity is standing firm in the midst of everything without getting swept away. Another way of feeling into it could be observing from a height so that you can see the present moment in a larger context. Uh, I also like to think of it as a grandparent's love. So, if metta is the heart that connects, and compassion is the heart that cares, and mudita is the heart that rejoices, equanimity is the heart that allows. So there's still this relational aspect to it in the context of this list of the Brahmaviharas. But a grandparent, they have a lot of caring for their grandchild, but not the reactivity that a new parent would. When my brother had and his wife had their first kid, they were living in a place where there was like a pediatrician on speed dial for new parents, which was good because they called him like 10 times a day the first few months. And every time the person on the other end of the line would be like, yep, that's diaper rash. Um, but just because they didn't have the context for understanding what their kids' signals meant, every little thing, because they cared so much, kind of sent them into a tizzy. Whereas when one of the grandparents would come to visit, they'd be like, yep, this is diaper rash. It'll be fine. And, still caring, still doing what was appropriate, but without the tizzy aspect of it. Uh, and yeah, and so how how do you know when equanimity is lost? That's yeah, one of the signs that you're losing equanimity is getting caught in judging or comparing or fixing. Philip Moffat, has these three as his, I don't know, like main tendencies of how we tend to react unwisely to the world. Um, Myself, I'm a fixer. I feel like we all have a main choice from those options that we tend to go to. And so when I notice myself in fixing mode, it can be a good reminder, right? Like, oh, right. Yeah, I'm really counting on things being a certain way. I'm really believing that having external conditions be just so is necessary before I can relax. Huh, okay, right. And once I've been able to name that, it's kind of like a space opens up where I can be with the messiness of conditions that are not what I would have chosen. And like I said a minute ago, one of the misconceptions we can have about equanimity is that it means always just feeling sort of so-so about everything. When, in fact, I think one of the most important applications of equanimity is to have equanimity about our lack of equanimity. To be able to say, "Oh, wow, I'm losing it," right? Like the moment you've named that, you're back in the land of equanimity again, right? Like there's some space around whatever reactivity is coming up. Um, so, yeah, so this ability to allow things to be just the way they are, including your own, foibles and mistakes and confusion and flying off the handle. Like, wow, I am really counting on things lining up with my expectations and staying that way. Yep, this is me believing that. Yeah, just saying that there's at least 10% more equanimity. Saying, yep, I believe that this is permanent. If you've been around Buddhist circles for long enough, saying that out loud is gonna twig something for you. And that buying into the belief will be a little bit softer. And one of the things that enables equanimity to arise is seeing impermanence, seeing, yeah, like I said a minute ago, kind of having this broader perspective, the understanding that life has ups and downs. This is just kind of how things are. Mm. There's a story, yeah, once upon a time, there was a farmer who farmed a very small piece of land and he had a single horse. And one day, there may have been a storm and part of the fence blew down and the horse got loose and ran away. And all the other villagers condoled with him. They said, "Oh, how unfortunate." And the old farmer said, "Perhaps." And the horse, sometime later, the horse came back and brought 20 wild horses with him. And all the villagers came and crowded around and told the old farmer, "Oh, how fortunate you are to have all of these horses now." He said, "Perhaps." And the farmer had a teenaged son who, you know how teenagers are, just don't tell them they can't do something. He decided he was going to train one of the wild horses. He was going to train it to be a saddle horse, and got thrown and broke his leg. And everybody said, "Oh, how unfortunate. You have nobody to help you on the farm now while your son recovers." And the old farmer said, "Perhaps." And sometime while the son was still recovering, the uh, the emperor's army came through town and conscripted all of the able-bodied young men and took them off to war. And the farmer's son was the only young man left in the village. And everybody crowded around and told the farmer, "How fortunate you are to have your son still with you." "Perhaps." So it's not like he wouldn't have, acted as best he could in response to these changing conditions. It's that he had a broader perspective that, yeah, this is an up and this is a down, and ups don't last, downs don't last. And the power of equanimity is that it keeps the other Brahmaviharas from becoming neurotic. The basic wish of metta, friendliness, is may you be well. And the basic wish of attachment is I can't stand it if you're not well. And it's equanimity that keeps the one from lapsing into the other. I care about you and I understand your life is going to have ups and downs, and that doesn't change my caring, but I'm not going to be surprised if things are hard for you sometimes. Equanimity keeps compassion from lapsing into grief and joy from lapsing into giddiness. Um, and those other qualities keep equanimity from becoming too cold or too removed. The closeness of metta and the poignancy of compassion, the lightness of joy, all keep equanimity, connected. It keeps it more like grandparents' love than just a coolness. Yeah, and so we see that things are impermanent. We see that life has ups and downs. We see that there's different types of things that happen in human lives. They're called the eight worldly winds. There's four pairs of things: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, and fame and obscurity. And these things are not fundamentally susceptible to our control. Like two musicians work very hard to develop their skills, and one of them goes viral and the other doesn't, works in obscurity for their whole career. Who knows why that happens? Yeah, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, they kind of come and go on their own schedule. And the Buddha described his teachings as going against the stream. And we can see that very clearly in when we look at the messages that mainstream culture gives us. If you do everything right, if you shop at the right stores, if you take the right supplements, do the right exercise classes, you'll definitely be able to have only pleasure, only gain, only praise, only fame. And it just doesn't work like that. And if we make our happiness contingent on those eight worldly winds only blowing in certain directions, we're sunk. That's not a reliable source of happiness. And so instead, we're training the mind to find a source of inner well-being, um, a resilience, an aliveness that doesn't depend on things out there lining up with our wishes or expectations or hopes. So why don't we give this a try? Let's spend 30 minutes doing some of this practice. So checking in with your body, seeing if you want to be lying down or standing up or sitting with different props than you've been using. Finding a posture that allows for alertness and vigor and a sense of at least inner uprightness, and also ease, relaxation, not having to do so much work to hold the body upright. Feeling the steadiness of the earth supporting you. Sometimes equanimity is described as having a mind like the earth, just unshakable. And as we start this practice, it's helpful to warm up the space by doing a bit of metta first. So bring to mind a benefactor, perhaps the person or being that we were working with several weeks ago. And just imagine them sitting in front of you and feeling the way your heart perks up with this imagined connection with them. And offering them phrases that express your goodwill. My dear one, may you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Noticing if there's feelings of warmth or tenderness or uplift that come along with these words. If those feelings do come, that's great. Let them strengthen. And if it feels a bit more abstract, that's fine too. We're just aligning the hearts with this intention. May my dear one be happy and peaceful. May they be healthy and well. May they be safe. May they live with ease. And turning the attention to a neutral person, perhaps one of the people we've worked with in previous weeks. Just somebody who doesn't have a strong charge for you one way or the other. But some individual you could bring to mind. My dear neutral person, may you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. I might not have a strong connection with you, but you're a sentient being. So I'm on your team, the team of all sentient beings. If I could choose for you, I'd choose only good things to happen. And having established that basic connection and caring, we can switch to equanimity, contemplation. One of the traditional phrases is, your happiness and unhappiness depend on your actions, and not on my wishes for you. Or you could try something different, like things are just as they are for you right now. Everyone has their own journey. This is yours. Just noticing how the heart feels as you turn the attention to this equanimity contemplation with this neutral person. And then turning back to your benefactor. My dear one, your happiness and unhappiness depend on your actions and not on my wishes for you. Notice how the heart feels as you offer to your dear benefactor this gift of wisdom, this gift of respect. Each of us has our own journey. This is yours. And you could bring to mind someone who's difficult for you, imagining them in a way that feels okay for you. And offering them whatever phrases express this vast, equanimous heart. Things are just as they are for you right now. Everyone has their own journey. This is yours. And the greatest challenge of all is offering equanimity to oneself, bringing your attention to yourself and trying out maybe a few different phrases. My happiness and unhappiness depend on my actions, not on my wishes. This is how things are for me right now. Can I be okay with things just as they are? May I hold this moment with tenderness. Noticing how your heart feels right now. There is a lawfulness to the unfolding of my life. Things are just as they are for me right now. And turning toward all of the beings on this call right now with equanimity. These people have come together to support my practice. Each of them has their own journey. Things are just as they are for them right now. Perhaps bringing to mind the beings that are near you physically right now, beings in your household, or your neighbors. For these people who are near me, things are just as they are right now. For beings who are far away from me, things are just as they are right now. There are beings who are experiencing suffering, perhaps ill health. Things are just as they are for them right now. There are beings who are experiencing joy, connection, or contribution, simple enjoyment. For these beings, things are just as they are right now. All humans have ups and downs in their lives. Their happiness and unhappiness depend on their actions and not on my wishes. All animals have ups and downs in their lives. Things are just as they are for them right now. For beings who are known to me, things are just as they are. For beings that are not known to me, things are just as they are. All those who are now living have their own journeys. Future generations have their own journeys. May all beings everywhere know the ease of the heart that connects and allows. May all beings rest in equanimity. As we end this practice period, reconnecting with the group, there's an opportunity uh, for sharing how that practice was for you, anything you experienced that you'd like to share, anything you're curious about. As always, it's fine to type a response in chat, or if you're okay with being recorded, it's fine to unmute yourself and speak into the group. One of the things that I think we touched on this a little in a previous week is the way that this practice of equanimity can be quite sobering, especially after the delight of joy. And I think one of the reasons why it can feel, I know there can be a bit of a jolt with the transition to equanimity. And I think one of the reasons for that is that there a trap with the cultivation of these other Brahmaviharas is that there can be a sneaky little bit of attachment that comes in, just the sense of, I am doing something that is ensuring good outcomes for you. So because I am thinking caring thoughts about you, that's going to make good things happen to you. Because I'm connecting with you with compassion, that will make you feel cared for. Because I'm delighting in your good fortune, that will also uplift you. And that little bit of attachment and magical thinking can, there's something inflating about it. It's kind of seductive to feel like you are controlling the world with your mind. If we could actually control the world with our minds, a lot more things would be either on fire or made of chocolate, speaking for myself. And so equanimity is reminding us that this is, there is a lawfulness to how people's lives unfold, and they have agency when it comes to that unfolding. And, we can help when the time's appropriate, we can care for sure, and we can't make their choices for them. And to see that, there's a limit to how we can ensure good outcomes for the people we care about. There can be a real resistance there. When the first time I did an extended period of practice with the Brahmaviharas, I was kind of skipping around the center, just dispensing mudita to everybody, and then when I came up against equanimity, it was like being pulled up tight. Just, oh wow, this is different. This is, I'm needing to relinquish this feeling of control that had grown without my being fully aware of it in the other Brahmaviharas. Mm. Yeah. So if there's no questions or comments, I'll just keep talking, but I really do invite you to bring forward anything that is up for you, even if it doesn't seem super important. If it's something you're wondering about, there's probably other people who are wondering about it as well. Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you. The area where I'm working is around how much does courage connect with equanimity. I am sensing for myself, because there's a fair amount of fear left in me, that in order to expand my capacity for equanimity, I need to know more about courage. Because if I try to just have a sort of warmth but steady heart, the fear intensifies when I'm, you know, including all circumstances, not just friendly circumstances. So if you could comment on courage and equanimity.
Yeah, yeah, that's really tender. The yeah, I feel like equanimity and courage really enable each other, don't they? Just this heart that is willing to get close to things just the way they are, and to stay steady even when they're challenging. Um, the yeah, courage faces difficulties, and equanimity is stays steady with them. Um, yeah, and they're, we long for happiness. We long for ease and good conditions, and that's fine. It's certainly not a problem. And and conditions aren't always going to match what we wish for. And so having hearts that are willing to uh, to gradually increase our capacity for courage. Um, yeah, that's so important. And I think courage grows as uh, as we stretch ourselves gradually, right? Like I think a lot of us have a very like get it done mentality, and so our instinct is to go right from our comfort zone into the most difficult situation possible. And that's not appropriate. What we need to do is stretch ourselves a little bit and then right. And so then, but on the other hand, when we get stretched, our instinct can be to run immediately back to our comfort zone. And the way we increase our courage is by stretching a little bit and then pausing and noticing that we're okay. Like there was this one time on retreat, I was doing a extended metta or Brahmavihara's practice early in my practice journey, and it was an enormous purification, by which I mean it was dreadful. Um, and I was dealing with I was noticing a lot of fear coming up, and I was just so bored of it. I was just fed up. Like, can't I have something other than fear? And so this one day I had this a feeling of like apprehension. I'm like, oh God, it's going to be more fear. I don't want to feel this. And so I sort of like averted my gaze from it like for most of the day. And finally I'm like, you know what, this is way more effort than just opening to it would be. And so I dropped that resistance and turned toward the fear. And it turned out it was just like a bit of apprehension. And like that was it. Like I was putting all that effort into resisting that. Wow. Um, so the as but as that willingness to turn toward the fear, however big it might have ended up being, um, strengthened, and I turned toward it, I was able to see, right, I can stay present with this feeling of apprehension. It's not going to kill me. And so then the next time I had the feeling that something in the domain of fear was lurking, it was easier to just not bother with that initial resistance phase, if that makes sense. And so these moments of noticing, right, I can do this, that is what grows our courage, right? So taking on a manageable challenge and noticing that you've managed it, right? And then and allowing that learning to sink in before you go back to your comfort zone. So it's stretching gradually that allows courage to grow. Curious if that brings up any follow-ups for you.
Um, I guess usually when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel like that what you said is going to work, but but you do get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this it, Mindfulness of emotions feels to me like parallel parking.
Yeah.
I have like no spatial perception. I'm like, it's a mystery to me why parallel parking works. But I've been doing it for decades now, right? And so, I get my car lined up one way, I turn the wheel, I back up, I turn it a different way, and I'm parked, and somehow it works. And when an intense emotion is present, um, yeah, and so with parallel parking, there's these instructions that I have that, like, I don't know why they work, but I've used them before and I know they work. With mindfulness of emotions, um, it, you know, the basic instruction is just, turn toward whatever's happening and watch it as it changes. And whenever something intense is going on, the story that it tells is, yeah, sure, every other intense emotion you've ever had in the past has come and gone, but this one is going to stay forever. Every other intense emotion you've had in the past has been survivable, but this one is going to kill you. And so executing the instructions around bringing mindfulness to those intense feelings, it's just like, I, I have these instructions. I'm pretty sure they're not going to work this time, but I'm going to try them anyway. And
Mhm.
that to me is what faith is. It's just
Mhm.
like, I've used this in the past and it's worked, and so I'm going to trust that experience that I've had, even though it doesn't, like, I'm pretty convinced right now that this time is different.
Mm. Yeah. What do you do about like I've practiced for a long time and there's this part of me that's like, shouldn't this be over by
Yeah, that's aversion.
now?
That's just aversion.
Yeah.
It's just not, that's just not wanting to deal with it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's bringing in judgment to, like, prove why aversion is the correct response to have. But it's just, that's just the hindrance of aversion. And when a hindrance is present, you can't see things clearly.
Right.
So
So what do you do? Maybe you've had this too because you've been
yeah,
practicing for a long time.
yeah,
What do you do with that thought?
yeah. Just note, oh yeah, it's not wanting. I don't want this to be happening. Yeah.
Right.
Not wanting is like this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Rachel. I had the same question sometime last week, and I started looking up quotes about fear. And I'm going to read the short and sweet one, but tell you first that it says pretty much the same thing that all the Nelson Mandela, et cetera, said in more words. And this one's from John Wayne. And he says, courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway.
Yep. I think Georgia O'Keeffe said something like that as well. I've been
Oh, well,
scared
I
every day of
guess
my
I could have.
life, and I've never let it stop me from doing one thing that I wanted to do. Yeah.
And that's pretty brief. I would have chosen O'Keefe over Wayne if I'd known that one.
Angie, go ahead.
Okay, there I am. Hello. I had a day today that I started with facing a very difficult situation that I knew that I was going to have this really hard conversation that I was dreading, and it was awful, and I have a lot of very many feelings and thoughts about and physical sensations about those that feel like I'm dying. And I went into it like I'm so pumped. I have so much compassion and so much equanimity and so much medita and all the things and meta, and I wish everyone well. And I was literally vibrating almost like high on nothing, but just, one cup of coffee. And I left the conversation, went super good. Everything was great. And then I ran into a community member. I used to work with her daughter in a support capacity, and she really sadly passed away very young this last summer. And I tried to say hi to the mom, and the mom was looking for, it was really sad. It's beanie babies that were born on the same day as her daughter. I know, in the dollar store. And I felt like she was a little bit cold and distant towards me, and I took that really personally. And then I went into Save-On's, where the grocery store, where nobody was nice and everybody seemed to be in a rush. And then I picked up my child who completely ignored me, where he's usually very clingy. But then when I tried to do something, he wanted me. Yeah, and then a colleague of mine who's in Vietnam right now messaged me, and it's his birthday. But he sent me some videos from there, and that's very cool. We had a lovely conversation, but he made a comment and then put no offense at the end of it, which made me take a lot of offense, where I never would have. And my mood I just plummeted, and I was like, I have nothing. I've failed. And in this practice, all I could think of were difficult people. There was no benefactors, no one was neutral. I found something to absolutely hate and despise about everybody, even every molecule of air I was breathing. I did not like it. you know, um, and I guess what my quest, yeah, it was a lot in 30 minutes. But my question is, um, if you don't feel compassionate, can you feel equanimous? If you aren't able to have medita, can you still have compassion for yourself? Like, do you have to have I know there's a trifecta, I don't know what like the five fecta is called, but do you need to have all of them to have one, or can you experience them differently? I understand they build upon each other, but that's sort of my question. Because if I could have just picked one instead of trying to do all five Brahmaviharas all day, which we haven't gotten to the equanimity yet, that would have helped, I think, just reflecting back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Lots of lots of stuff going on. Um, so yeah, it sounds like you 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 brought in all of the oh hey Lassen. It sounds like you brought in all of the tools at your disposal to really rise to a challenging occasion. And it sounds like, you were just feeling a little bit raw after that challenging conversation. And, you know, without recognizing it, you were probably wanting to encounter some friendliness in the world around you and just, be kind of soothed by the presence of friendly people. Like it's a very reasonable thing to want. And so not getting that, like when you were feeling depleted after that difficult conversation was probably just extra rough. Um, and and then yeah, and then it sounds like there was also just like a layer of judgment, like I should still be able to rise to this challenge as well, even though I've just used a whole day's worth of patience in this challenging conversation. Um, and yeah, I think somebody once said, if nothing else, you can always practice patience. And patience is related to equanimity. So that could be one, especially for those of us who've historically had a lot of ups and downs and kind of sought out drama. Orienting to equanimity can actually be a really good one to highlight. Um, just like having that sense of everything happening in a bigger space, um, not being any less engaged with the people in your life, but just deliberately bringing in a little bit of a broader context, like imagining you're you're the nana of everyone that you're interacting with. um, uh, just yeah, having that sense of spacious caring could be a good reference point to use. Um, and you bring up a good point about how these qualities uh, support each other. One way of thinking about them is as like I don't know, like a house with only two walls. What would that be, like a carport or something? So there's, if metta is the floor, um, compassion and joy are the two supporting walls, and then equanimity is the roof. so it kind of shelters everything, but compassion and joy give they yeah, they balance each other out, and support the roof. And metta is just the ground on which everything rests. And the you know these qualities work together in that they're the natural responses that an awakened being would have in different situations. So a heart that's completely free from grasping of any kind, if it encounters another human, there's a basic friendliness there. The moment that suffering comes up, the response is compassion. If it's joy that's up, the response is mudita. And if there's if there's so if a response is needed, then compassion or joy would lead to particular kinds of actions. And if no response is needed, then equanimity is kind of the resting place for the heart, just allowing things to be just the way they are. Um, One of my friends, Brian Williams, uses a developmental model um, to to describe these qualities of the heart. When a child is born, there's just the parent has so much care, so much connection, so much love, so much tenderness. And then the child teethes, and compassion arises. You want to do whatever you can to help the child. As the child grows older and starts being able to do more things, there's a joy that arises as you see them, like learning their numbers, or riding a bike, or tying their own shoes. Like, oh, look at them spreading their wings. And then as they grow up and become more independent, there can be a more of a sense of equanimity, like that. Yeah, you're living your life. You go, honey. um, and it's not that one only ever experiences those qualities at those different stages, and it's not that once a kid has grown up you never experience joy for them anymore. It's just that that's these are kind of to give a flavor of these qualities. The I, I don't know if I shared this quote before from Longchenpa, the Tibetan teacher from like the 11th century. Out of the rich soil of goodwill grows the beautiful flower of compassion, watered by tears of joy and shaded by the great tree of equanimity. So goodwill is just such a basic. Yeah, my teacher, Venerable Panyawati, says it's not gold dust, it's dirt. It's just the basis for all other good qualities. Everything grows from that. Um, and the heart quivers as it encounters suffering. It's uplifted in response to others' good fortune, and then supported by this spaciousness of the heart that understands that things are just as they are, and offers others the respect of making their own decisions. Mm. And yeah, so why are we practicing like this anyway? These practices uh, are purifications of the heart. The taking on these practices, orienting the heart towards compassion and kindness and joy. Uh, when we do that, when we orient in that way, what we're doing is we're surfacing everything that impedes those qualities from being expressed. We're getting to know all of the blockages in the heart that keep goodwill from flowing, that keep the heart from being expansive and courageous. Um, and as we set the intention towards kindness and see hostility arise, bringing that hostility into the light of awareness gives it a chance to dissolve. As we bring compassion, turn the attention, set our aspiration towards compassion and see cruelty arise, shining the light of awareness on that helps to soften it over time. Same thing with setting our intention for joy and having a feeling of threat or envy or lack arise. And of course, when we set our intention for equanimity, what comes up is reactivity, and seeing all of the ways that, dropping in the question, can I be okay with things just as they are? Sometimes the answer is going to be, oh, hell no. Just obviously, right? We all have an edge to our equanimity. And as we practice in this way, we're just mapping the terrain of the heart. We're getting to know where there's reactivity, where there's rejection of reality, where there's fighting with the Dharma. And as we when we practice in this way, we're not trying to manufacture these feelings. They're already potentials that are implicit in the heart. We don't need to implant the ability to be kind. We already have that potential. All we're doing is turning the attention to it, and the attention nurtures it, develops it. And as we see the opposite of these qualities arise, it gives us an opportunity to get to know those as well. And as the thing is, as we really feel into what cruelty feels like, it doesn't feel great. I don't know if you've noticed this. Like the desire for other people to suffer, that is a suffering state. And as we feel into kindness and compassion when they're present, they are states of non-suffering. And the heart, if given the choice between suffering and non-suffering, the heart will want to choose non-suffering. The heart wants to choose freedom. And so we get to know all of the things that impede our freedom, and the heart will naturally start to make different choices, different decisions. And that's what I think that's what we mean when we talk about these practices being purifications. We're bringing all of our pettiness, all of our vindictiveness, all of our envy up to the surface and getting to know it, getting to make friends with it, not wishing it away, but just seeing this, right, this doesn't serve me. I don't need to be afraid of it. I don't need to push it away. I can just shine the light of awareness on it. That's literally all I need to do. And the more I can see how painful it is to live in a state of lack or envy or vindictiveness, the more the heart will just naturally prefer to live in a state of generosity and kindness and connection and delight. So we're not trying to make these things happen. We're appreciating them when they're present, and we're noticing the unpleasantness of literally any alternative to them. When the heart, the Buddha said all dharma has the same taste, the taste of freedom, just like all of the great oceans have the same taste, the taste of salt. And once we get the taste for freedom as expressed in the heart that's kind and caring and delighted and spacious, there's nothing else we want to taste anymore. And as we as we practice in this way, as we get to know our pettiness and vindictiveness um, and all of the other things that impede the heart's brilliance, um, we're we're bec- we're becoming better friends to ourselves. We're becoming better friends to the world. We're becoming better able to respond wisely. There was a teacher, I'm blanking on his name. He studied for like decades, 50 years before starting to teach. Um, and one of his students asked him once, what's the point of a lifetime of practice? Why have you devoted so many decades of this finite life to this? He said the point of a lifetime of practice is an appropriate response. So Sharon Salzberg said the same thing more succinctly. We don't practice to meditation to get better at meditation. We practice to get better at life. So we're getting to know the potential of the heart to be radiant, to be magnificent, and as we orient to that potential more and more, we're more able to respond appropriately. And this world needs all of the appropriate responses it can get right now. Swear. But as we come to the end of this series, everything that comes together is of the nature to disperse. And as we disperse, just reflecting back on all of the benefit that has been generated, all of the goodness that has been brought into being through your engagement with this course, the interest that led you to sign up, and the determination and persistence that led you to show up, and any moments of calm or kindness or clarity. All of those are seeds of goodness. And when those sprout and ripen and bear the fruit of happiness, may that fruit be shared with all beings everywhere. May this practice be for the benefit of all beings. May all beings be free. Thank you for your practice, everyone. Bye, everyone.